Welcome to Stressless, the recliner that lets you create your own personal comfort zone. With a smooth reclining glide system that eases your body into the perfect position for total relaxation. Plus full lumbar support and a headrest that adjusts automatically. Stressless. Relax your body, free your mind.
Come, experience Stressless at Inbo Furniture in Cornelius. Thinking of updating your existing countertops? Then call the countertop specialists at Fox Tops All. Fox Tops All is a leading provider of premium custom manufactured countertops, which we fabricate to your specs. No matter how large the project, Fox Tops All believes in exemplary customer service from the moment you walk through our doors until the last installed surface meets your satisfaction. Come visit our Mooresville showroom today and see for yourself why Fox Tops All.
Hi everyone, I'm Billrosinski and welcome to another edition of Sports Night. Glad you're with us. Football is the focus of attention. In a little while we'll be talking with Ryan Khalil, who will be the starting center for the Carolina Panthers. But joining us now, a man who's covered the Panthers since 1997. He's the beat writer for the Rock Hill Herald, Darin Gantt. Darin, good to see you.
It's just like old times, Bill.
Yeah, Darin and I go back. In fact, it was the phone call that I got after my last season with the Panthers. This is about 3 or 4 hours after they told me I wasn't coming back, and Darin calls me on the phone, and I picked it up and I said hello, and Darin said, "Okay, what's your story now?" And I'm thinking, well, you knew. You didn't know at all what had gone on.
Well, we knew your contract was up, and we knew they either needed to extend you or you were going to be gone, and a lot of people were going to be unhappy. And it's funny the way those things work out. That's just how it is in the business sometimes.
So, but that's water under the bridge, I guess,
Certainly.
or something like that. Let's talk. There were so many things when I was getting ready to ask you questions about this football team this year. I'm going, where do I start with Darin? You look at the names of guys that are no longer on this football team. Dan Morgan, Kerry Colbert, Drew Carter, Deshaun Foster, Justin Hartwig, Mike Wall, Chris Jenkins. I mean, this list goes, this is a massive overhaul.
You know, it's funny, and people have had this reaction about their offseason like they haven't done a whole lot, but when you look at the bulk of the names and all the guys that are gone, all the guys they've brought in, I mean, and they've made some pretty significant things. I mean, in any other year, trading Chris Jenkins is a huge deal. I mean, because Chris Jenkins is probably the best player on that list in terms of the talent and what he was able to do this year and moving forward. And you know, I think it would have gotten a lot more attention, but it's almost covered up in all these other moves. Because when you part ways with a Dan Morgan, when you part ways with Mike Wall, Justin Hartwig, guys they signed to big money contracts not all that long ago to kind of be part of the solution. You know, it's amazing what they've done this offseason. It's been, you know, overhaul might be overstating it a little bit, but you don't want to understate it either. Dipping back to some more of those old Panthers phrases. But, I mean, it's amazing what they've done in a short amount of time to change that team.
Now, of the players they've added, a receiver like DJ Hackett, running back, Toefield, Moose is back, Landon Johnson, linebacker. Who is there a guy when they signed him and you thought to yourself, hey, this guy could be an impact player?
I think of a lot of them. Landon Johnson's that guy. I mean, he's the one, ever since Will Witherspoon left, they've been looking for a guy who could play that weak side linebacker position and shift inside in case something happened. And as we know with Dan Morgan, that happened from time to time. Will had to plug in the middle and do that. And I think Landon Johnson, the neat thing about him when he was in Cincinnati is he started at all three positions, started like 10, 20, 21 games at each spot. So he's a guy who can come in and play in a lot of different positions. They had that a couple years ago with Chris Draft, who was kind of that super sub, that fourth guy. But Landon Johnson's a physical upgrade over a Chris Draft, and he's a guy who's they say he's going to come in and compete with, but he's going to beat out Niall Diggs for the starting weak side job. He'll start from day one, and when you look at Landon Johnson, John Beeson, Thomas Davis, that's a fast three linebackers, and that's going to kind of cover up where they've got some deficiencies on some other parts of that defense.
You know, it wasn't long ago, in fact, one of my last couple of years with the team when they had signed, I mean, when you looked at that front four and you saw Peppers and Rucker at the end, you saw Buckner inside along with Chris Jenkins, and you thought, boy, this group is set for a long time. Right. Brenson's gone. They let him go. We all know about the Chris Jenkins story. looks like Mike Rucker's done with this team. Any shot of him coming back?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think he thought about it and he wanted to play again, and they didn't rush out and grab him by the lapels and say, you have to stay here, you have to play for us one more year. And I think he's kind of thinking now, he said initially, I want to play again, even if it has to be someplace else. But I think the longer he's thought about it, the more he likes the idea of being like his buddy Mike Minter and being able to retire a Panther and just play his whole career with one team and do it that way. It's amazing. You talk about those old days. That used to be when people outside Charlotte talked about the Carolina Panthers, it was the defensive front four. And really, that was the weakness of the team last year, and the back seven of the defense became the strength. So it was a complete role reversal for those guys in terms of their identity as a defense. And they really, they got so much better with John Beeson in the middle. I mean, that guy, and John was like an adult playing from day one. I mean, he looked all grown up from about week 4 of that season on. And I think as Thomas Davis got a little more comfortable, that became the strength of the team as much as anything else.
What are you hearing about Jake?
I think Jake's okay. I think people are freaked out about Jake because when you hear Tommy John surgery, it's this big alarming, because baseball pitchers who have it are down for 18 months. And that's the context that everybody has on Tommy John surgery. With football quarterbacks, it's a different deal because they're not throwing breaking balls. No, nothing's coming out. They're throwing no sliders, throwing no curves. So it's not nearly the stress on the elbow joint. Everything I've heard from people who work for the Panthers, from people who make their money from Jake, is that Jake's going to be all right. And as crazy as it sounds to kind of dismiss it, almost be flip about, hey, I had Tommy John surgery, he'll be all right. This has been a long process, and he's done it right. He's gone slow. And you know Jake and how hard it is to get him to do something slowly, to be methodical about something, because this guy's an instinctive player. It's what makes him good as a quarterback. And I think it's been tough for him in the rehab because of that, but he's trying to be smart about it because he knows that's the only way he's going to get back. Every indication I've got, though, is that Jake's going to be fine for Spartanburg, as amazing as it sounds.
I want to get back to Peppers for a second because he did not have a great season last year.
His worst year ever.
And now you come to the point where you're going to eventually have to do some kind of deal with this guy.
Right.
And does this organization want to throw a lot of money at a guy who did not play well last year?
Yeah, and it's really a sticky spot because you have to make probably $120 million plus decision based on a guy having his worst year ever. And when I say worst year ever, that goes back to college. He was never as bad at North Carolina as he was last year here. And I think it mystifies everybody. And you go through the litany of reasons why and the conspiracy theories, and people think this, people think that. I think there are a lot of reasons that kind of funnel together. What we know is that physically Julius Peppers wasn't the same guy. And he wasn't as strong as he's been in the past. He didn't look as quick as he'd been in the past. He got handled by single blockers. I mean, I saw Maurice Jones-Drew in Jacksonville stand him up, and that guy's built about like this ottoman right here between us. And, it's a tough position for them to be in. I think ultimately they'll do something with Julius. Because he's potentially a franchise player, a guy who you can build a defense around, but really, right now, it's such an unmanageable cap number. It's like $15 million plus against salary cap. It's a big, well over 10% of the entire cap on Julius alone. And I just think they need to do something to get that number under control and have a little financial sanity almost. I mean, because the way things are standing now, Jordan Gross is playing on a one-year franchise contract. So right now, you've got the potential for those two guys becoming free agents at the same time if you don't address them. And that's why I think both of them probably get done. I think Jordan first, but I think Julius at some point this year, they're just going to swallow hard and pay him the money. But again, it sounds weird, but everybody you talk to Julius's people, you talk to people that work for the team, there's a resolve about the guy. And Julius is unusual because he's not motivated like most football players. He's got a more cerebral approach to things, and where most people take trash talk as incentive and that kind of thing, that stuff didn't work on Julius. He's kind of internally motivated, and through the whole thing last year, he was kind of above it all, and he never rose to the bait, never said I'll show you, never said any of those kind of things, and I just get the feeling that Julius is gonna. He knows how important it is to play well early this year. I'll say that.
When Mike Minter retired,
Yep.
I went down and saw the press conference. Then you and I were standing on the practice field watching the team practice, and you looked at me and you said, and I wrote this down here, there is a leadership void on this football team. Who are the leaders of this football team now?
You know, I think we mentioned one of them a little bit ago in John Beeson. And it sounds strange being a second-year guy, but you could kind of see John sort of grow in that role. When they put that middle linebacker job on you, it's more than just a position. I mean, you're calling signals for the defense. You're kind of becoming that identity. And I think John's the kind of person who, because of the approach he takes to the game, he's going to flourish in that role. I mean, he was at Miami, and he was always kind of viewed as one of those guys down there. And I think another one is Chris Harris, is a new guy, a young guy, came in last year during training camp, right as Mike Minter was retiring. And I think as the season wore on, those are the guys making plays, and it's a lot easier to be a leader when you're making plays. And I think, you know, when you and I talked about that void in leadership, they were relying on guys like Mike Minter, guys like Mike Rucker, who had been leaders and who had been playmakers in the past, but they got to the point where those guys weren't making the plays they used to. And you know the culture of the locker room. If you're going to stand up and talk and expect to be listened to, you better make plays on Sunday. And nothing against those two guys, but they were reaching the points in their careers where those plays weren't happening as frequently. And I think it kind of diminished some of the leadership aspect for them.
As we tape this show, the team is prepping for the draft. What do you think? Where are they going, maybe position-wise anyway, the first couple rounds?
You know, I think with all the moves they made, the cuts and the signings and re-signings before free agency started, I think it became obvious that when the commissioner stands up and says, with the first pick the Carolina Panthers select, he's going to say, tackle, fill in the blank. Now, maybe it's Ryan Clady from Boise State. Maybe it's Jeff Oda from Pittsburgh. Maybe it's Chris Williams from Vanderbilt. It's going to be one of those guys, I think, because that's the most obvious need. With all these shufflings of offensive linemen, they want to make Ryan Khalil the center, and they want to put two big guys on either side of him, and that means moving Travell Wharton in from tackle. And they've done some other things. They've signed Kedrick Vincent. They've signed Tony Finati, who the last time anybody saw him was about 380 plus. So they're looking to be bigger. They're looking to be stronger. And I think a lot of what they missed last year was a push up the middle, and I think they're trying to fix that by doing that. And so I just think the glaring need, since they've taken care of Jordan Gross with the franchise tag, they've got to have another starting caliber tackle. And those guys come in the first round. I mean, you know the tradition on that. If you take one high in the top half of the first round, the chances of that guy being a bust are pretty slim, especially when you're talking about talented guys like these. You know, I've done a number of these writer mock drafts for NFL.com and different places, and, you know, it's always one of those guys, and it's just a matter of which one fell to you. When I did the one for NFL.com, you know, Ryan Clady was sitting there at 13 available, and I said, well, you know, this is a no-brainer. This is the guy you have to take. He's a natural left tackle. He's a guy who's light on his feet. He's kind of a Jordan Gross-like player almost. He's not this big, dominant road grader blocker, but I don't think that's necessarily what they need. And, you know, they're going to invest a lot of energy in the draft. They've already invested a lot of money to protecting Jake. And, you know, as he comes back from that elbow, that's kind of in the back of their minds as they do this, because they want to be physical. They talk about wanting to run and all those John Fox buzzwords. But bottom line, you've got a quarterback who you need to keep upright because he's a little iffy coming off an elbow surgery. So, you know, I think it makes a lot of sense that that's the way they're going to go. I just can't imagine them coming out of the first day of the draft without a tackle who they intend on starting.
All right, in about 30 seconds, heard this a lot last year. The old hot seat. Yeah, is this the year? Is this team got to make the playoffs for these guys? And I'm talking about John and Marty.
I don't know if it was ever as hot as people thought it was last year. That being said, I think this year it absolutely is, because you've stacked 8 and 8 on top of 7 and 9, and the team just hasn't been the same the last couple of years. Now, there have been reasons, and I think when Jake went down last year, that was the season. There was no fixing that. When you're talking about who to play between David Carr and Matt Moore and Vinny Testaverde, where are you going as a team, really? But I think that being said, they do have to fix it, and they know this, and they've approached it as such. I think it's interesting. Every time you talk to Marty Herney through the spring, he's out at a different college pro day interviewing some prospect. I mean, they know how serious things are this year, know how important it is to turn this thing around, because you can't sit and let it go the direction it's gone without there being consequences for the guys in charge.
Darin Gantt, Rock Hill Herald. Go to heraldonline.com. You can read them every day and get the latest on the Carolina Panthers. Darin, always a pleasure. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, Bill.
And when we continue here on Sports Night, Ryan Khalil, starting center for the Panthers. Stay right there.
Sports Night is brought to you by Inbo Furniture, Scandinavian and Contemporary Designs.
Fox Tops All, the countertop specialist. Call now and ask about our starting line selection. And shot on location at the Sunset Club. Thinking of updating your existing countertops? Then call the countertop specialists at Fox Tops All. Fox Tops All is a leading provider of premium custom manufactured countertops, which we fabricate to your specs. No matter how large the project, Fox Tops All believes in exemplary customer service from the moment you walk through our doors until the last installed surface meets your satisfaction. Come visit our Mooresville showroom today and see for yourself why Fox Tops All.
Welcome to Stressless, the recliner that lets you create your own personal comfort zone. With a smooth reclining glide system that eases your body into the perfect position for total relaxation. Plus full lumbar support and a headrest that adjusts automatically. Stressless. Relax your body, free your mind.
Come, experience Stressless at Inbo Furniture in Cornelius. Sportsnight is brought to you by Inbo Furniture, Scandinavian and Contemporary Designs. Fox Tops All, the countertop specialist. Call now and ask about our starting line selection. And shot on location at the Sunset Club.
Welcome back to Sports Night. We continue here at the Sunset Club, and our focus on this show is football. And we welcome now a second-round draft pick from the 2007 draft for the Carolina Panthers out of Southern Cal, Ryan Khalil. Ryan.